Hi everyone, welcome to Manager IQ's Manager Skills Corner podcast. Manager IQ's mission is to provide an online space where managers can access all the resources, learnings and tools to build their manager toolkit, and also to provide you with a community of managers to lean on. This podcast is designed to bring experts in specific areas of management to share their knowledge and experience with the Manager IQ community. We share tips and tricks which you can implement into your management practice. For more information about Manager IQ and our products, check out our website www.manageriq.com. Now, let's check out today's episode. Thank you for joining us for the second part of the onboarding episode, where we're sharing a great conversation with Sandra Maddison. In part one, we discovered what is onboarding, when does it begin, when does it end, why is it good to have a good structured onboarding program, what happens when it's not done well, and then how a manager can make a good structured onboarding program. Now let's kick into part two, where we continue the conversation. The thing that I liked about your salon example as well is around how the manager then delegated the onboarding experience. I do think that, once an onboarding experience has been fine-tuned or you even work with the current employees around what is the most meaningful things that need to be covered and when is the best time to cover it, so that you do have this program that everyone in the team understands what goes on and also maybe has a part to play. I think that can be quite powerful. So the manager doesn't have to think, oh my goodness, I've got another person to onboard, I have to do all of this on my own. They can actually use it as an opportunity to delegate some of those topics or some of those areas of expertise to somebody else who would like that experience or who is actually the expert. Once again, helps to build that network, helps to build that support system, creates opportunity and obviously a little bit of capacity for the manager.
Yep, absolutely.
So I guess let's circle back on some of the other benefits. So we've talked a little bit about them, but any other benefits to having a good onboarding program that you think would be important to share?
Absolutely. It's important to have, to sort of think about it as a win-win situation. So, if you're going into it with, this is all about, I'm going to spend a bit of time with them now, but I'm going to have that new hire feeling really connected and welcomed and aligned with the business. Once that person understands what their role looks like, sounds like, feels like, and what the scope of it is, what's the extent of the decision making that they can make, then they'll be happier. And if someone's happy, they're a lot easier to work with. And, it's sort of like when you're happy, when you're not overwhelmed, when you're not worried, when you're not sort of living in that fear, then you're a lot more open to learning new things. So, again, like, I guess over the last few years, one of the things that's sort of really come to light for a lot of businesses about is employee well-being. And I think that having a good onboarding program directly leads to good employee well-being, because when you know the rules, it's like a kid, the rules, then where you can safely operate, and what you need to do if something's outside of that system or outside of that process, who to go to. And when you know what you need to do or who you need to see, then that reduces anxiety. There's a lot of things that people live with nowadays, and anxiety is one of them. And I think that if you can do everything within your power to sort of manage that by providing information and direction, then you're going to have a happy people. You're going to have happy people there. One of the other things I really wanted to touch on here is you want that person, especially in the first week, to feel good about their decision to take your job offer. And I liken this to when I bought a house. It was the first time I bought a house on my own, and the first night I was really excited. I went to bed, and then the neighbours' music started up, and it was a deep bass, and it continued till 3 a.m. I was beside myself because I hadn't slept. I'd been moving all day, and I was exhausted, and it was like, what the hell have I done? And that's what happens when people start new jobs. If they don't get that reinforcement about what's going well, they start to wonder about what they've, why have I come here? I had an experience myself in one role. Day two, the senior manager walked in and started yelling at everyone in the team, and I'd quit a great job. I'd quit my role as training manager because I thought there was going to be a lot more opportunity and all of this. And I was like, what have I done? I've taken a step sideways, and it was one of those moments that I don't want anybody to experience. But if you do have the clear processes that we've talked about, you've got the checklists to make sure you've covered everything you want to cover. You've got the clear expectations, all of those things just make people happy. It's not about just having some lovely things on their desk on the first day. Those do help. The branded mugs, the branded T-shirts, the branded this, that, and the other. That sort of stuff is nice. And, when you take it out and, oh, yes, I work here. That's all nice, but that's not the stuff that keeps people in the job. It's the relationships with people. People don't leave a great manager easily, do they?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I think those are great things. And I think you're right. It's around making sure that people have a clear understanding around, or I guess what you're trying to say is take away the uncertainty for that individual around what's going to happen in the first week, days, 30, 90 days, because removing that uncertainty is going to help them be motivated, stay engaged, be happy that they've made that decision, and take that information in a lot quicker so that they are actually getting to that, that level of understanding as quick as they can. And, like you say, contributes to their well-being. So I love all of those things that you said and resonates. And I think that we could all sit back, anyone listening to this podcast, and think about those experiences where we felt great and we felt that it was a meaningful experience, and the others where we felt, oh my goodness, what have I done?
Yeah, I mean, like I asked, my son recently started a new job, and I asked him, "Oh, so what's going to happen on first day? What has anyone rung you yet? Do you know where to park? What time do you start?" And I was like, I don't know. And he's not the only one. I had another friend who started in another business, and her shift was going to be in the evenings, and she had a very real concern about parking for staff, and those concerns just weren't answered. And it's sort of like, these are the things that if you get right, reduce that fear and anxiety, because everyone's going to be asking them how their first day went. And what do you want? Do you want them to say it really sucked, or it was good, it was tiring, but I'm really glad I made that decision to come here? That's what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess you have given some ideas around structure, so a manager having a checklist, but how would you recommend a manager goes about creating a good onboarding program for their people?
Well, the first thing is what's happening already. Like for me, when I'm working with business owners, I've got a checklist, and I step through. Okay, so when they sign the contract, what else do they need to provide? Because sometimes they don't need to provide it then and there. They need to provide it on the first day. So we have discussions about what does that look like, sound like, feel like? How are you going to communicate that to the person? So if you sort of have a mental, well, actually a physical, if you start writing your checklist right from that point, then it starts to become very logical about what happens next. You want to make sure that you're giving that new hire a call before they start to answer any questions, to tell them where the parking is, to remind them what to bring on their first day. Find out some of their favourite things. Then you can wow them in that first week and say, "Oh, I know you like a mocha chai latte," or whatever the case may be. Let's go and have a coffee. Those are the sorts of things that you can sort of put in your checklist to remind you that, oh, if I do this, then it works really well here. You've got your stock standard stuff that you need for the HR side of things, the KiwiSaver details, the bank account details, emergency contact details, all of those things. So that all comes part of all of the things that you're wanting to make sure are covered off during that pre-boarding experience. I'm just going through the checklist that I use here at the moment just to remind myself. So, prior to day one, all of the things that happen there, but also before they start, if you have IT people, whether they're internal or external, that are responsible for setting that person up in the system, you need to get onto it, because there's nothing worse for somebody to come in on day one and be told, oh, I emailed it to you. And them not being able to get into the computer to check their business emails because they've not been set up. So, there's all these sorts of things that you sort of forget about. Making sure they've got note paper and a notepad on day one. Making sure before they start that they're aware of the dress standards. There's, I know a lot of horror stories about that too. Because some businesses are now doing the dress for your day, but that can mean something very different to different generations of people. And, we're a very diverse workforce from lots of different countries, and so we all have different expectations about what constitutes dressing for your day. So if your business has got standards, you need to make sure the new hire is aware of those. Even things as simple as what time to meet. 2 jobs I had, I didn't know how to get in the building. I was told to start at 8, and the building didn't open until 8:30. So, I had to ask people, walking in, and they were sort of like, well, who are you? No one knew who I was. The next thing I sort of move on to, or encourage, managers to think about, is to think about the business. If it's a small, medium enterprise or a self-employed small business, then you need to sort of think about your journey, about how you started as a company, why you're there. Because if you can share that with somebody, then it just opens up the world. They can actually really start to understand why you do things the way you do them. Values, vision, we've talked about that a little bit. Thinking about the best time to cover that. Again, it needs to be noted. Also talking about all those fun things like, how do you get ahead in this company? When do pay reviews happen? Do you coach for performance? How does all of that work? What learning and development will I experience in this company? The other things like performance expectations, job descriptions, hours of work, all of those sorts of things are important. One of the fun ones is staff benefits, actually telling them why, one of the cool things about working for you is we offer you free insurance. We offer you this. We offer you half a day off on your birthday or a day off on your birthday. These are the sorts of things that, again, make a person feel special. Telling your people how you celebrate, what happens in the community, if you have a monthly meeting with everybody in the business, what does that look like? What's the expectation of them at that time? Legislative and key standards, always important to have a checklist there. And also then the actual first days itself, the building tour. Someone I was talking to the other day said, I wasn't shown where the loos were. And they were quite a shy person, quite an introvert, and it was very hard for them to actually say, oh, hold on a moment, can I, you're an adult, you don't want to have to do that. It's one of those things. Where's the fire exits? Where's the loos? Opening, closing procedures, facilities, where to have lunch, tea, coffee, all of those things. Do I need to bring my own mug on first day? That's something that seems small, but the amount of people that I'd have on a first day orientation that were dying for a cup of coffee, but everyone brings their own mugs and no one told them. Those are the simple things. Simple things. Team introductions, team meetings, internal communication, how we get the job done, how we work as a team, are some really important things. So as you can see, there is a lot to cover. There is a lot of things that actually go into, that whole period of time. And it can seem overwhelming if you just stop and think about it in one hit. But, for new managers, I'd definitely recommend that they just have a notebook. They brainstorm, jot it all down. And then as they work through it, it will start to come into the right order for themselves and their business and what's right for them.
Yeah. Fabulous. And I think that, the managers listening to this, you could probably just go back and keep on listening to that last bit and just, all the different areas that you mentioned, is then sit down and work out, is this covered currently in your induction or your onboarding, or should it, and what would the message be for your organization and your context? So I think that was such a great foundation for managers to have a look at if it's not already happening.
Are you a new manager looking to build your manager toolkit? Well, the New Manager Development Program is just for you. We cover 4 modules, which is looking at what is the role of the manager, how to set yourself up as a manager, how to set your team up, and then looking into the future. We have an excellent free trial that is available to all. If you would like access to it, please visit our website today, www.manageriq.com.
I think we might have touched on a few here, but maybe just to give it a little bit of a bit of light here. Any barriers for managers that are worth mentioning around having a good onboarding experience?
I think it sort of comes back to, is there anything happening in the organisation or the business that could go against it? Is there, if there's a few managers and if there's a bit of a hierarchy in the business, is everybody on the same page? Mm-hmm. It's important to let people know in the business. I used to let everybody know from the CEO, because they'd be coming along to do part of the talk on day one, right through to the people on the reception desk. So there was a whole lot of people that we would let know we were welcoming some people into the business. And what that meant for these people is that when someone looked really new and they were walking around with a paper name badge, they were, someone would go, welcome. So there'd be all these random welcomes, which definitely makes it easier. So the key, make sure everybody knows that you've got someone starting, because then they'll be doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. You've got to let them know what to expect. What other barriers are there? I think not communicating is the biggest barrier. Yeah. And not taking the time to actually listen to the new hires' responses. We're all very different people. Everybody communicates quite differently. Some people will be very cautious. Some people don't want to be seen to bringing anything up that's negative. Like, I haven't actually received my contract yet, or I haven't been told when my payday will be. These are the things that can make people a little bit nervous. Not being able to do what you're asking them to do, I think, is the biggest barrier. So you need to break down those barriers. You need to make sure they've got, the tools of trade that they need to do the job, that they've got the information they need to apply to the job that they're doing. I think that's probably it in a nutshell.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a few else that we can add to it, but I think you have covered the main bits. I think as well as the one that I would touch on is that keeping it personal and listening to that individual, because there's a lot going on in an organization, and sometimes the manager or the people involved in the onboarding experience might feel that this is something that needs to happen that's stopping them from doing the stuff that they need to do in their normal day-to-day role. Not being I'm not going to say robot, but I can't think of a better word right now. A robot and just running through the information to tick a box. It's about, making sure that you are keeping it personal, listening to the individual, making sure they understand, coming back to it if it feels like, that maybe there's, maybe there isn't as much understanding, but over the next week or so, things will start to fall into place, but let's sense check that actually does happen. So invest in them now, so that it will help you and your team in the future to make sure that they come up to the right productivity levels or motivation levels as quick as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if you've got a clear process in place and you don't just keep it as a dead document, that you actually think about it every time, every time something comes up, you go back to your core document and you go, okay, I need to tighten up that area, or actually that was just way too much information for one day. That needs to be done over 2 days, or I need to do something fun with the team at the beginning. I need to do a team introduction, and I want to do that first lunchtime or whatever the case is. So it's just about making sure that everybody's on board and everybody's singing to the same tune. And that if there's anybody that is involved in decision making, not just you. So if there's, say, 2 teams with 2 different managers, or 3 or 4, and they all hire new people into the team, well, you need to talk together to make sure that you're all speaking the same language and doing the same or similar things, while still being mindful about the person's particular role that they're going into.
Yeah, that's fabulous. And we're just running up a bit on time here. So one thing I will say is that you've been so generous with your time and knowledge. So thank you so much. If anyone who is listening would like to get in touch with you and engage your services in Induction Made Easy, what's the best way of them getting in contact?
Well, my email is hello@inductionsmadeeasy.co.nz. I have a Facebook page, which is Inductions Made Easy, and I've also got a website, which is Inductions Made Easy. And I'm in LinkedIn under Sandra Maddison. There's about 2 or 3 Sandra Maddisons, but I'm the only one that's listed as founder of Inductions Made Easy.
Fabulous.
Whether you're needing someone to come in as that external set of eyes and look at what you're doing, I can certainly do that. I have a business consultancy process where I follow for that, as well as the one that I follow for small business owners. So I do have my hand in both camps, or my foot in both camps, I should say. Because that's just one of the things that I love to do, is help people. And I also help people not just with onboarding, but also with learning and development, whatever crops up as time goes on as well.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Sandra. Just a bit of summary around what we've discussed today for the managers who are listening to the podcast. So when it comes to onboarding, it's great to have, make it easy for you, but also making it meaningful for the individual, is that you have a structure in place around how you onboard people to your organization, to the team, to their role. You want to make sure that even though you have the structure, that you keep it personal for that individual, and you're listening to them and you're sense checking that the way that they're learning is in the right way for them. Keep evolving the process and adapting your onboarding process. Seek feedback from the individual who's just been onboarded or for your team. Make sure that you're working on those barriers that might impact the onboarding experience. Clarity of expectations, I think we just need to call it as a big thing as well. Applying the mindset of it's a win-win for the individual, win for you, and a win for the organization to get this right and spend time and energy on it. Anyway, those are the kind of quick notes that I wrote down as I thought these are key points I wanted to share as part of the summary. Anything that you would say that I maybe isn't in that short list of all the things that we've talked about that you would add?
I think that you've just done an amazing job summarising everything there. The biggest thing for a manager is not to be afraid to ask. Ask the new hire, what was a great onboarding experience you had, and it just opens up the conversation and it helps you understand what they expect or what they need from you as well.
Yeah, fabulous. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Sandra. I'm looking forward. I think we might have to get you back on again and talk about some other topics, but I really appreciate the time you've given, the knowledge that you provided, and I look forward to connecting with you in the future.
Thank you.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's episode. If you have any feedback or would like us to deep dive on a specific skill, please email us at hello@manageriq.com. Thanks very much. Have a good day.